My parents bought my brother a Tesla, then asked me to take the blame when he crashed it. Hey everyone. So, my parents bought my golden child brother a top-of-the-line Tesla, then tried to make me take the blame when he inevitably crashed it. Buckle up, because this is about to be the wildest family betrayal story you've read all week. So I, 24 male, have been getting the short end of the stick in my family since I was a kid. My younger brother Tristan, 21 male, is the golden child who can literally do no wrong in my parents' eyes. The favoritism in our house is so obvious, it would make a sitcom writer blush. I'm not even exaggerating. This is some straight-up, everybody loves Raymond type of situation. Let me break this down for you guys. Since the day I turned 18, I've been required to pay $400 in monthly rent to live at home. Yeah, you read that right. $400 a month to live in the same house I grew up in a bedroom that hasn't been updated since I was 12, and still has faded posters of bands I don't even listen to anymore. Meanwhile, my brother Tristan lives completely rent-free. He eats the food I help pay for, uses the utilities I help cover, and generally acts like he owns the place. When I finally got the courage to call out this obvious and unfair arrangement, my parents hit me with that classic "our house, our rules" line that parents use when they know they don't have a real, logical explanation. The double standards don't stop there. When I was in high school, I had to maintain a 3.8 GPA while working 20 hours a week on weekends at a local hardware store. I wasn't allowed to go to parties because, as my parents said, I needed to focus on my future. Tristan, this dude barely passed his classes, never held a job for more than a few weeks through high school, and was allowed to party every single weekend because, in my mother's words, he's just being social and needs to enjoy his youth. Every one of my achievements, no matter how significant, got a half-hearted good job, while Tristan got a parade for the bare minimum effort. I now work 40-plus hours a week at a soul-crushing corporate job just to save enough money to finally escape this place. My plan has been to save up enough for a decent apartment and the hefty first and last month's rent. But every single time I get close to having enough saved up, some mysterious family emergency suddenly appears. And guess who's expected to help out financially? I graduated from college 3 years ago. I busted my behind working part-time while taking a full course load, and I managed to graduate with honors and had a job lined up within 2 weeks of getting my diploma. My reward for this significant achievement? A half-hearted congrats text from my dad and a $50 Applebee's gift card from my mom. No party, no celebration dinner, nothing. Just, here's some mediocre chain restaurant food. Now don't forget your rent is due on the 1st. Last month, Tristan finally managed to graduate with a solid 2.4 GPA after 6 long years of what I can only assume was professional beer pong training. This dude changed his major 3 times, failed multiple classes that he had to retake, and basically treated college like an extended vacation that occasionally required him to write a paper. And what did my parents do to celebrate his profoundly mediocre achievement? They bought him a brand new Tesla Model 3 Performance. Not the base model, mind you. The $60,000 plus version with all the bells and whistles, the premium sound system, the works. I still remember the day they gave it to him. We were all standing in the driveway, and my dad hands Tristan this small, elegantly wrapped box. Inside are the keys to this gleaming white Tesla that was parked across the street. Tristan starts freaking out, jumping up and down like he just won the lottery, while my mom takes about 500 pictures for her Facebook page. Then, my dad looks over at me, noticing the stunned expression on my face, and says, "I am not kidding. Don't be jealous. Your brother deserves this after working so hard." Working hard at what? Perfecting his beer pong shot? When I pointed out that I had graduated in 4 years with honors while working and got nothing but a gift card, my mom had the audacity to say, "Well, college was easier for you, dear." Tristan really struggled. Yeah, he struggled to get out of bed before noon and remember which girl he was dating that week. I could go on for hours about the blatant favoritism, but you get the picture. For my entire life, I have been treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. From the second Tristan got that Tesla, it became his entire personality. I am not even kidding. The dude couldn't go 5 minutes without mentioning his whip or posting Instagram stories of the dashboard. The car wasn't just a mode of transportation for him. It was his whole identity now. Tesla Bro was born, and it was just as obnoxious as it sounds. Every night, he would come home at 2 a.m. from whatever bar he was at and rev the engine in the driveway like an absolute tool. Yes, I know Teslas don't actually have engines to rev, but this dipstick would floor the acceleration back and forth in our driveway, making that high-pitched electric whirring noise at full volume. He would wake up the whole neighborhood because, apparently, sleep is only for peasants who don't own electric cars that their daddy bought for them. The kid drove like he was auditioning for Fast and Furious 27 Electric Boogaloo, speeding down quiet residential streets where kids play, doing donuts in grocery store parking lots, and filming those ridiculous TikToks where people pretend to be asleep while their Tesla is on autopilot. Every time I pointed out that maybe, just maybe, treating public roads like his personal racetrack wasn't the best idea, he would just smirk and tell me to stop being such a buzzkill, bro. But his reckless behavior behind the wheel went far beyond just showing off for social media. The dangerous stunts were nothing compared to what came next. This wasn't just reckless behavior. This was actively endangering everyone around him. I offered to be his designated driver or call an Uber, but he'd wave me off with, "The car practically drives itself, bro." Autopilot doesn't magically neutralize alcohol's effects on judgment and reaction time. His friends were equally irresponsible. They'd pile into the Tesla, 4 or 5 intoxicated passengers, for what they called joyriding. I warned everyone repeatedly that disaster was inevitable. I warned my parents too. They all dismissed me with, "Mind your own business." Mom actually said, "You're just jealous. You don't have friends who want to have fun with you." Right. I'm devastated that I don't have friends eager to cause accidents or harm innocent people. Each day, Tristan grew more reckless. His videos became increasingly dangerous. Speeds climbed higher. It wasn't a question of if something would happen, but when. Everyone except me seemed blind to the approaching catastrophe. The inevitable occurred on a Thursday night. I was working in my room when I heard my parents' bedroom door slam open around 3 a.m. Frantic whispering filled the hallway, followed by Dad's car speeding away. I found Mom in the kitchen looking ghostly pale. When I asked what happened, she mumbled about, "Your brother had a little accident with the Tesla, and Dad going to collect him. A little accident. Our family code for major disaster we're already planning to minimize. Around 4:30 a.m., Dad's car returned. Through the front window, I watched him practically drag Tristan up the walkway. My brother could barely walk, was missing a shoe, and had dried blood on his forehead. Dad frantically shushed him as Tristan slurred something about a tree coming out of nowhere, man. Golden Boy had wrapped his brand new Tesla around a tree after leaving a bar. Who could have predicted this completely unpredictable event I'd been warning about for weeks? Miraculously, he wasn't seriously injured, just a forehead cut and probable airbag bruises. The Tesla, however, was nearly totaled. Front end smashed, airbags deployed, windshield cracked, a $60,000 paperweight. The garage door stayed closed for 2 days. After the crash, my parents called a family meeting. In our family history, meetings never deliver good news. Nobody calls family meetings to announce Disney World trips. I walked into the living room where my parents sat with those serious, concerned faces people wear when requesting kidneys. Tristan slouched in the armchair, scrolling his phone as if this was merely a minor inconvenience interrupting his important TikTok browsing. The bruise on his forehead had turned a lovely yellow-purple that honestly improved his appearance. Dad cleared his throat, adopting that fake serious expression he uses before saying something completely unreasonable while making it sound logical. He has this routine, straightens his back, throat clearing, clasps hands together, like watching a bad actor prepare for a scene. Son, he began, we've examined the damage to Tristan's car. He spoke as if the Tesla had caught a common cold. Insurance won't cover it because he trailed off uncomfortably. Because he was driving under the influence, I finished. Mom shot me a look that could curdle milk. Don't be dramatic. He'd only had a few drinks. Right. A few drinks that made him unable to walk straight or form coherent sentences. In Mom's world, anything short of unconsciousness counts as a few drinks. Dad continued as if I hadn't spoken. The repairs will cost around $18,000, and we think it's fair that we all contribute as a family. I laughed out loud, thinking it was a joke. Then I realized they were completely serious. They had the audacity to ask me to help pay for repairs on a car I don't own, don't drive, and that was damaged because the golden child decided to drive hammered. You want me to help pay for repairs on a car I don't own or drive? That was damaged because he drove while intoxicated? I repeated, ensuring I wasn't hallucinating this conversation. We're a family, Mom said, as if that explained everything. And you're the only one with significant savings right now. There it was. They knew I'd been saving to move out, and they saw my savings as a convenient fund for Tristan's latest mistake. My savings weren't for my future. They were just emergency money for his screw-ups. How much are you expecting me to chip in? I asked, making air quotes because we all knew that meant pay for most of it. Dad looked slightly uncomfortable. Your mother and I can contribute about $3,000 from our emergency fund. Tristan has about $500 saved. Of course, Tristan only had $500, despite never paying rent or bills. That money was probably earmarked for devil's lettuce and overpriced streetwear. So you want me to pay the other $14,500? It wasn't really a question. Dad nodded. Relieved, I understood. We can arrange a payment plan, maybe $1,000 monthly until it's paid off. We know you've been saving. Tristan finally looked up from his phone. It's not like you need a fancy apartment anyway. You're always at work. The audacity could power a small city. He crashes the Tesla I'd warned him not to drive while intoxicated, then gives me financial advice on spending my hard-earned money. Money earned working 2 jobs while paying rent to my own parents. That's when I lost it. I laughed, but not happily. The kind of laugh you do when something is so absurd, you can't even be properly angry anymore. I am not giving you a single cent for this, I said, looking each of them in the eye. Tristan crashed the car driving under the influence, and he should be grateful he's not sharing a cell with someone named Bubba. This is his problem, not mine. My parents looked at me as if I'd suggested sacrificing the family dog. After everything we've done for you, Mother began, her voice trembling in that manipulative way she'd perfected. The Guilt Trip Express was officially departing. What have you done for me exactly? I asked. Made me pay rent while he lives free? Given him a brand new Tesla while I drive a car older than his license? Constantly dismissed my accomplishments while celebrating his mediocrity? Please, elaborate on what justifies me paying for his accident. Dad's face turned that special shade of red that appears when someone challenges his authority. You will contribute to fixing your brother's car. End of discussion. I stood up, surprising myself with my sudden calmness. No, I won't. End of my discussion. Their faces were priceless. They were so accustomed to me giving in, being the responsible one who always sacrifices for the good of the family, that they couldn't process this new version who wasn't rolling over. You're being selfish, Mom said, deploying her ultimate weapon. No, I'm being realistic, I replied. Tristan chose to drive under the influence. He chose to crash the car. He can deal with the consequences for once. I walked out, ignoring their calls to return and discuss this like adults. The irony of suddenly wanting an adult discussion wasn't lost on me. I heard Tristan ask, so does this mean I'm not getting the car fixed? Always focused on his priorities. I knew this was far from over. In my family, no isn't considered a complete answer. It's just an invitation to find more creative and manipulative ways to get what they want. The following days were tense. My parents barely spoke to me, except asking if I'd reconsidered their generous offer to let me pay for Tristan's mistake. I kept my answers short. No. This led to heavy sighs, slammed doors, and Mom's passive-aggressive routine where she talks about me in third person while I'm 3 feet away. Some people just don't understand family loyalty, she'd say to no one particular while I ate breakfast. Real subtle, Mom. I caught them whispering several times, huddled around the kitchen table with papers spread out. They'd go quiet when I entered. Never a good sign. Anytime people stop talking when you appear, they're discussing you, and not in a surprise party way. Friday night, I came home to find Dad on the phone with their insurance company, using his professional voice, the one he uses when trying to convince people he's not full of it. I caught phrases like comprehensive coverage and vandalism claim before he saw me and took the call to his office. Vandalism claim. That was new last I checked. Driving into trees wasn't considered vandalism unless the tree pressed charges. I figured they were grasping at straws, seeking loopholes to make insurance pay. Good luck with that. Insurance companies employ entire departments boss whose only job is finding reasons not to pay claims. Saturday morning started with a bang, literally. I was jolted awake around 7 a.m. by what sounded like someone beating a metal trash can with a baseball bat. I stumbled to my window overlooking our driveway, but saw nothing unusual. The noise had stopped. I figured it was aggressive garbage collectors and returned to bed about an hour later. All hell broke loose. I woke to shouting from the garage. I threw on sweats and went downstairs to find Tristan standing in the open garage with my parents behind him, all staring at the Tesla. The car was even more destroyed than before, not just a little more damaged. It looked like the Hulk had a personal vendetta against it. The windshield was completely shattered, all windows broken, massive deep dents in doors and hood, side mirrors dangled by wires, one headlight was gone. It was almost impressively thorough destruction. What happened? I asked, genuinely confused. The car had been damaged from the crash, but this was another level entirely. Tristan spun around, his face red with practiced rage. Like you don't know you did this. I actually laughed. What? I was asleep all night. I didn't touch your car. Dad held up something, a baseball bat from my high school days that I kept in my closet as a memento. Then why was this found in the bushes outside? His voice did that fake calm thing, meaning he's actually furious. I have no idea, but Mom cut me off. It was my bat, owned for years, but I hadn't touched it in months. It lived in my closet with other high school sports equipment. We've already called the insurance company, Dad said smugly. They're sending an investigator Monday. We told them someone vandalized the car out of jealousy. Everything clicked into place. Tristan must have taken my old bat and further wrecked the already damaged Tesla, then planted it to frame me. Insurance wouldn't pay for the accident, but vandalism might be covered. As a bonus, he'd get revenge on the big brother who wouldn't pay for his mistake. I looked at Tristan and saw that little smug smile he was trying to hide. This wasn't just spoiled brat behavior anymore. This was actual malice. He had deliberately set me up, and my parents were complicit. Are you serious? You're going to try framing me for this? I asked, looking straight at Tristan. He smirked. Who do you think they'll believe? The straight-A student with a bright future? Or the jealous older brother who still lives at home and complains about everything? My parents stood behind him, arms crossed, a united front. They had chosen their side, as always. It didn't matter that what they were doing was insurance fraud, a felony. It didn't matter they were willing to let their own son take blame for something he didn't do. All that mattered was protecting their golden child. This is ridiculous, and you know it, I said, surprisingly calm. I didn't touch the car. I was asleep all night. Mom scoffed. We heard you leave your room around 2 a.m. The neighbor's security camera probably caught you too. Interesting. We didn't have neighbors with security cameras that could capture our driveway or garage. They were bluffing, which meant they knew exactly what happened because they'd helped plan it, or at minimum, knew Tristan did it and were covering for him. Let me get this straight, I said, crossing my arms. You want me to either pay $14,500 for repairs to a car I don't own, or you'll frame me for vandalizing it so you can commit insurance fraud? Those are my two options? Dad's face flushed. Nobody is framing anyone. We know you did this because you're angry about the money. I returned to my room without another word. No point arguing. They'd already decided their version of reality. This had escalated from typical family nonsense to actual criminal behavior. Quickly, I called my boss requesting an emergency day off Monday. I wasn't leaving my defense in my family's hands when the insurance investigator arrived. As I hung up, something made my stomach drop. My parents had just shown exactly how far they'd go to protect Tristan. They would frame their own son. They would lie to authorities, which made me wonder what else they'd covered up for him that I didn't know about. The insurance investigator arrived Monday morning at exactly 9 a.m. Mac looked like he'd seen this before, wrinkled button down, tucked into khakis, carrying a tablet and camera. Dad tried telling me to go to work, that they'd handle everything, but I stared at him until he backed down. Funny how quickly his authority crumbles when I don't immediately roll over. My parents did their best wholesome family impression when Mac arrived. Tristan slouched nearby, looking appropriately victimized and occasionally touching his facial bruise for dramatic effect. Mac was polite, but all business. He went straight to examine the Tesla, taking dozens of photos from every angle. He spent considerable time comparing the original front-end damage versus the new damage, which gave me hope he might notice the obvious. This car had been in two very different incidents. After thoroughly examining the car, Mac asked to speak with each of us separately. My parents went first, together, for about 30 minutes. Then Tristan had his interview, maybe 15 minutes. I could hear him raising his voice once, probably for drama. When my turn came, I sat across from Mac at our kitchen table where he'd set up his laptop and papers. He had questions about my whereabouts Friday night and early Saturday morning. I told the truth. I was home, in bed, asleep. I'd come home from work around 6 p.m., made a sandwich, played Xbox online with friends, and went to bed around 11 p.m. I didn't leave my room until hearing the garage commotion next morning. Mac nodded, making notes. Then he asked point blank if I'd had anything to do with the Tesla damage. No, I said, looking him straight in the eye. And here's what you need to know, what they probably didn't tell you. That car was already significantly damaged before this so-called vandalism happened. He raised his eyebrows. The most emotion he'd shown, I explained everything. The Tesla was Tristan's graduation gift, and he'd been driving recklessly since getting it. I told Mac about the intoxicated driving, speeding, ridiculous TikTok videos, then the crash, how Tristan had wrapped the car around a tree while driving under the influence about a week ago, and how my parents had somehow avoided police involvement. Check the airbags, I told him. They've already been deployed from the initial crash. Look at the front-end damage versus the new damage. It's clearly different. The front damage is from tree impact, the rest is from, well, not me. I also explained my parents' attempt to get me to pay $14,500 for repairs, and how the vandalism mysteriously happened right after I refused. Mac wrote everything down without much reaction. Then he asked if anyone could verify I was in my room all night. No, I admitted. I live here with my parents and Tristan, but I ordered pizza around 9:30 p.m. Friday and played Xbox Live with friends until about 11 p.m. He nodded, made more notes, then surprised me by asking, do any neighbors have security cameras? Not that would cover our garage or driveway, I said. The Johnsons across the street have a doorbell camera, but it only sees their porch. He wrote something down, thanked me, and said he'd be in touch soon. Walking back to the living room, I felt my parents and Tristan staring daggers at me. They knew I hadn't stuck to their script. After Mac left, all hell broke loose. My parents lost their collective minds. How dare I tell the truth to the investigator? Mom started crying about how I was trying to ruin Tristan's life over one little mistake, as if driving under the influence and committing insurance fraud were equivalent to forgetting trash duty. Dad got in my face, pointing and telling me I'd better call the investigator back and fix this if I knew what was good for me. Tristan just smirked from the couch, completely confident his plan would work, because it always had before I went to my room and locked the door, ignoring their demands for the next 2 days. I went to work, came home, went straight to my room, and locked the door. I ordered delivery, and only emerged when I knew they were asleep. It was like living in a hostile foreign country where everyone hated me. Wednesday afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Mac from State Farm Insurance. Could you meet me on Main Street at 4 p.m. Today? I have follow-up questions." I texted back that I'd be there. I didn't tell my family where I was going. I just left work and went straight to Starbucks. Mac was already there, sitting at a corner table with his laptop and papers. He motioned for me to sit. "I wanted to talk away from your family," he said quietly. "We've uncovered some inconsistencies in their claim." Mac was much more thorough than my family anticipated. He'd canvassed the neighborhood looking for security footage and found something. Our neighbors 2 doors down had installed a new security system last month with a wide-angle camera covering most of the street. And guess what it captured at 2:13 a.m. Saturday morning? Tristan, clear as day, taking my old baseball bat from my car trunk where I kept old sports equipment and attacking his already damaged Tesla. The footage showed him methodically breaking every window, denting the hood and doors, even ripping off a side mirror. Mac slid his tablet across to show me the footage. There was my brother at 2 a.m., staging the entire thing. It was so obvious it was almost funny. "I've been doing this job 15 years, Mac said, "and this is one of the dumbest frame jobs I've ever seen." He'd already reported his findings to his superiors. They were denying the claim and had referred the case to their fraud department. He'd also contacted local police, who now wanted to speak with both me and Tristan. "An officer will be here in about 10 minutes, Mac said. "I wanted to give you a heads up before they contact your family. Given the circumstances, I thought you might prefer talking to them separately." I thanked him, genuinely grateful for his thoroughness and for believing me. Officer Rivera arrived, took my statement, showed me the footage again, and asked if I wanted to press charges against Tristan for attempting to frame me. "The DA will decide whether to pursue insurance fraud charges," she explained. "But for false reporting and attempting to frame you, that's your call." I sat there thinking, yes, Tristan is my brother, my flesh and blood, but he was also the person who deliberately tried framing me for a crime I didn't commit. He would have happily let me take the fall for his accident and subsequent tantrum, potentially ruining my record, job prospects, my entire life. I thought about all the years of favoritism, double standards, all the times I'd been made to feel less than because I wasn't Tristan. I thought about how they were all willing to let me take the fall for insurance fraud, just to protect him, and I thought about how tired I was of all of it. "Yes," I told the officer. "I want to press charges." No hesitation, just a simple, firm yes. She nodded, made notes, and asked me to come to the station later to give a formal statement. We agreed on 6 p.m. I drove home around 5 p.m. to grab some things before heading to the police station. To my surprise, a police cruiser was already parked out front. Officer Rivera hadn't wasted time. Walking into my house was like entering a war zone. Mom was pacing and crying in the living room. Dad was on the phone talking frantically about misunderstandings and family matters. Tristan sat on the couch looking pale as a ghost. His usual smug expression was gone. When Mom saw me, she rushed over. "What have you done? The police were just here. They're saying Tristan could be charged with fraud." "I didn't do anything. Mom, Tristan did this to himself when he decided to try framing me for vandalizing his car." Dad hung up and stormed over. "This is ridiculous. We can handle this as a family. You need to call them back right now and tell them you don't want to press charges." "No," I said simply. "I'm done covering for him. I'm done being the fall guy. None of you can make me drop the charges now." The aftermath was exactly the chaotic mess you'd expect. Mom vacillated between crying and trying to guilt me into dropping charges. Dad switched between threatening me and offering bribes. Suddenly, he could help with my rent on a new apartment if I'd just make this all go away. Tristan tried apologizing, but it came off as, "I'm sorry I got caught," rather than, "I'm sorry I'm a scheming person." At 5:45 p.m., I went upstairs. I knew I wouldn't want to return after giving my statement, so I packed a duffel bag with clothes, my laptop, and important documents. When I came downstairs with my bag, my parents looked alarmed. "Where do you think you're going?" Dad demanded. "I'm going to the police station to give my formal statement," I said. "Then I'm staying with a friend for a while." Mom started wailing louder. "You can't leave. We need to handle this as a family." "We stopped being a functional family a long time ago," I replied. "Maybe we never were." Dad stepped in front of the door, blocking my exit. "If you walk out that door and go through with this, don't bother coming back. You will no longer be welcome in this house. If you do this to your brother, you are choosing to destroy this family." I looked him straight in the eye. "No, Dad, I'm not destroying the family. I'm refusing to let the family destroy me anymore. And if you're really willing to disown me because I didn't let that happen, then I'm fine with it." I stepped around him and walked out. He called after me, something about ungrateful children and family loyalty, but I didn't look back. I drove to the police station and gave my formal statement. It took about an hour. The officer explained what would happen next. Tristan would be charged with filing a false police report, attempted insurance fraud, and potentially additional charges related to the original DUI crash that had never been properly reported. "This might get messy," she warned. "Family cases often do. Are you sure you want to proceed?" I nodded. "I'm sure." When I left the police station, I had a text from my buddy Chris. "Got your room ready. Ordered food. Don't be late, bro." I'd called him earlier to see if I could crash at his place for a few days, and being the solid friend he is, he didn't ask questions. As I drove to Chris's apartment, my phone blew up with texts and calls from my family. I turned off my phone and kept driving. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt like I was finally standing up for myself. Chris was waiting on his porch when I pulled up, 2 sodas in hand. He didn't ask for details right away. He just helped with my bag and told me that whatever it was, we'd figure it out. In that moment, I realized something important. This was what actual family was supposed to feel like. The warmth of that realization settled over me like a blanket. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace with where I belonged.